In a world overflowing with words, where every second, millions of voices compete for attention, and every platform is flooded with endless chatter, there lies an ancient and forgotten weapon. A weapon so subtle that most overlook it. A weapon that Machiavelli, one of history's most calculating minds, understood deeply. That weapon is silence. Today, we begin unraveling one of the greatest paradoxes of power. How saying less can often mean controlling more. How withholding words can shape decisions, shift perceptions, and create influence in ways that constant talking never could. And how, in a culture addicted to noise, the ability to remain silent makes you stand out as commanding, mysterious, and powerful. For the next hour, we will journey through Machiavelli's insights and apply them to modern life leadership, negotiations, relationships, and even self-mastery. In this first part, we will uncover why silence is not weakness, but refined strength, why silence unsettles people, and why the man or woman who can hold their tongue often holds the upper hand in any interaction. So, sit back, listen carefully, and reflect, because this wisdom, if applied correctly, can change how others see you, how they respond to you, and ultimately, how much control you hold in your world. Machiavelli once observed, "Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are." This was not just a statement about appearances, it was a lesson in control. Think about this. When you reveal everything you think, when you speak impulsively, when you explain yourself endlessly, you become transparent, predictable, easy to read, easy to manipulate. But when you remain silent, people are forced to guess. They begin projecting their own assumptions onto you. They wonder, what is he really thinking? What is she planning? Why aren't they speaking? This is the invisible power of silence. It creates mystery, and mystery creates influence. Consider history's greatest leaders, not those who shouted the loudest, but those whose very pauses carried weight. When silence enters a room, it changes the energy. It forces others to lean in, to anticipate, to wait. Silence can say, "I am in control." Silence can say, "You will reveal yourself before I reveal myself." Machiavelli knew this, and he embedded it into his teachings for rulers and strategists. A leader who speaks constantly risks contradiction. A negotiator who reveals too much loses leverage before the deal is even struck. A general who announces his plans invites defeat before the battle begins. Silence, on the other hand, conceals weakness, protects strategy, and amplifies authority. Here's a simple truth about human beings. Most people cannot stand silence. We live in a world that hates quiet. From the moment we wake up, we are bombarded with notifications, conversations, media, commentary, constant stimulation. Silence feels unnatural. It creates tension, and when that tension rises, most people rush to escape it. Think of a negotiation. The moment silence enters the room, the inexperienced negotiator panics. They feel the need to fill the void with explanations, concessions, or extra words that reveal their bottom line. The master, however, stays calm, observing. Silence works like a psychological trap. It forces the other person to reveal themselves. This is why silence is not passive. It is active. It is pressure applied in the most subtle way. By saying nothing, you force others into a position where they say too much. They expose their fears, their desires, their weaknesses. And you gain intelligence. You gather information. You learn where to strike without having revealed a single card yourself. Imagine walking into a meeting. 10 people are there, each trying to prove their intelligence, their knowledge, their worth, speaking endlessly. Then there is one figure who says little, perhaps nothing at all. Instead, they watch, they listen, they absorb. What happens? People begin to project strength onto the silent figure. They assume depth, they assume authority. They begin to believe this person has something important to say, something worth waiting for. This is not just perception, it's psychology. Humans naturally associate silence with self-control and self-control with power. Anyone can talk. Few can resist the urge to talk. And so, silence becomes a marker of discipline. And discipline is always linked to respect. This is why Machiavelli advised rulers to speak rarely and with purpose, because every unnecessary word is a potential liability. Every casual comment can later be twisted into a weakness. Silence, on the other hand, cannot be used against you. Now let's contrast Machiavelli's wisdom with today's reality. We live in a culture of noise. Leaders bombard the world with endless tweets, interviews, statements, and commentary. Influencers feel compelled to update every thought, every emotion, every trivial detail of their lives. Politicians talk endlessly, often exposing contradictions within a single day. This obsession with constant communication is not strength. It is weakness, disguised as relevance. It reveals more than it conceals. It exposes before the game even begins. Meanwhile, those who master silence, those who speak only when it serves a calculated purpose, command far more attention. Think of Warren Buffett, who rarely gives interviews, but when he does, the world listens. Think of Steve Jobs, whose famous pauses during presentations created more impact than most people's speeches. Think of leaders, generals, and negotiators throughout history whose restraint in words made their presence unforgettable. Machiavelli would look at today's world and shake his head. He would say, "The more you speak, the more rope you hand your enemies. Save your words for when they have maximum impact. Otherwise, let silence do the work." Let's destroy a common misconception. Silence is not passivity. Silence is not weakness. Silence is not ignorance. Silence is strategy. It is restraint applied with purpose. It is the ability to control not just what you say, but also what others say in response. When you remain silent, you are not avoiding confrontation, you are shaping it. You are not avoiding influence, you are multiplying it. You are not giving away control, you are consolidating it. Machiavelli understood this distinction. To him, silence was not empty space. It was calculated pressure. It was the pause before the strike. It was the hidden weapon in the arsenal of power. So, let me ask you, how do you use silence in your own life? Do you rush to fill the gaps when conversations pause? Do you reveal too much when you're nervous? Do you lose leverage because you cannot bear the weight of silence? If so, remember this. Every time you break silence unnecessarily, you surrender power. But every time you hold silence, you gain it. In the next part, we will go even deeper, examining how Machiavelli saw silence not just as a tactic, but as a long-term strategy for leadership, negotiation, and influence. We'll uncover how silence protects information, how it creates timing advantages, and how it shapes entire power dynamics. Stay tuned, because this is only the beginning. In the first part, we uncovered how silence creates mystery, authority, and control in the moment. But Machiavelli's brilliance lies not just in using silence as a tactic, but as a long-term strategy. Silence is not only about pausing in a conversation. It is about shaping entire power dynamics. It is about preserving options, protecting information, and dictating the rhythm of interaction. In this second part, we explore how Machiavelli used silence strategically. We will see why he warned leaders to speak rarely, how silence prevents traps, how it creates timing advantages, and why the one who talks first often loses. Machiavelli warned rulers that every word spoken can become a trap. Think about that. When you speak, your words can be recorded, misinterpreted, or used against you. A careless statement today may be twisted into a weapon tomorrow. This is why rulers, politicians, and executives who cannot restrain their tongues often self-destruct. But silence? Silence leaves no trail. Silence leaves no evidence. Silence leaves nothing that can be weaponized against you. This is why Machiavelli advised leaders to speak rarely about things that matter, because once your intentions are spoken aloud, they no longer belong to you. They belong to others who may twist, distort, or anticipate them. Consider the modern world. Careers have collapsed overnight because of one impulsive tweet. Politicians have destroyed alliances with one unguarded comment. Business leaders have lost billions with one poorly chosen phrase. Yet those who remain cautious, those who guard their words like treasure, endure. Silence is like insurance against self-destruction. It protects you from yourself. Machiavelli also understood that silence is not just about avoiding mistakes, it is about creating advantages in timing. Imagine two negotiators sitting across the table. The first one rushes to speak, eager to make their case. They commit to a position quickly, narrowing their options. The second remains quiet, listening carefully, waiting. What happens? The impatient speaker has revealed their cards. The silent one has gained valuable information while still keeping all possibilities open. The one who waits controls the rhythm. The one who listens controls the outcome. This is what Machiavelli meant when he said, "Nothing wastes so much as haste." Speaking too soon eliminates the element of surprise. It makes you predictable. It ties you to positions you may later regret. Silence, on the other hand, allows flexibility. It allows adaptation. It keeps doors open. In strategy, whether war, politics, or business, the ability to wait, to time your words, is often the difference between victory and defeat. Power rests on information. The one who knows more and reveals less always holds the upper hand. Machiavelli understood that silence creates information asymmetry. By saying less, you protect what you know. By listening more, you gain what others reveal. Over time, you build a library of intelligence, while your opponents drain themselves by oversharing. This is not manipulation, it is discipline. It is the ability to resist the human urge to fill silence with chatter. Most people cannot stand not being understood, not being seen, not being acknowledged. They rush to explain themselves. They talk too much. But the strategist knows silence is bait. By offering nothing, you force others to give everything. Consider a job interview. The candidate who nervously fills every pause may reveal insecurities, weaknesses, even desperation. Meanwhile, the candidate who answers calmly, then allows silence to hang, appears confident and in control. Who do you think is perceived as stronger? This principle applies everywhere. In sales, in politics, in relationships, in war. Silence is the lever that shifts the balance of information in your favor. There's another hidden dimension Machiavelli saw. Silence acts as both a filter and a shield. When you stay quiet, people reveal who they are without your prompting. Their words, their tone, their eagerness, their nervousness, all of it comes to the surface while you simply observe. Silence filters truth from pretense. At the same time, silence shields you. It shields your weaknesses, your emotions, your doubts. Think about it. Every time you open your mouth, you risk showing irritation, impatience, or insecurity. Silence conceals all of that. Machiavelli understood that appearances matter more than reality. Silence allows you to control appearances. You appear strong even when uncertain. You appear wise even when still learning. You appear calm even when calculating. Silence is the mask that never cracks. There's a saying in negotiation, the one who speaks first loses. Machiavelli would have agreed wholeheartedly. Why? Because the first to speak commits. They reveal their position, their desires, their limits. The second speaker, armed with this knowledge, has the advantage of response. Think of it like chess. The first move may open the game, but it also reveals intent. The opponent now sees your structure, your vulnerabilities, your plan. The master strategist waits, observes, and then strikes at the precise moment when the opponent has overcommitted. Silence is this waiting. It is the patience that forces others to move first, to reveal, to weaken themselves before you even act. Let's pause and remember Machiavelli's deeper warning. Nothing is more dangerous than haste. Applied to speech, this means impulsive words can destroy more than you realize. How many leaders have lost credibility through a careless remark? How many relationships have fractured because of words spoken in anger? How many battles have been lost because plans were revealed too soon? Machiavelli reminds us, silence protects you from haste. Silence creates space to think. Silence gives you time to choose words carefully so that when you do speak, your words carry weight, precision, and power. So, ask yourself, when was the last time you lost power because you spoke too soon? When was the last time you revealed more than you should have? When was the last time silence could have served you better? Silence is not just a tactic for conversations. It is a strategy for life. It protects, it delays, it gathers, it empowers. Machiavelli knew this centuries ago, and it remains just as true in our noisy modern world. In the next part, we will go deeper into the psychological mechanisms behind silence, how it creates tension, how it forces others to reveal their insecurities, and why silence is often perceived as wisdom. This is where we'll unlock the psychology of mystery and authority. Stay with me, because Part 3 will reveal why silence doesn't just protect you, it elevates you. We've seen how Machiavelli used silence as both a tactic and a strategy. But why does it work so powerfully on human beings? Why is silence something so simple, often more unsettling than words? The answer lies deep in psychology. In this part, we will break down how silence interacts with human nature. We'll see how it creates tension, how it draws out insecurities, how it is automatically linked to wisdom, and why silence builds authority without effort. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago, but modern psychology confirms it. Silence is not just the absence of sound, it is the presence of pressure. It is the mirror that reveals what people are most afraid to show. Human beings are social creatures. We crave recognition, feedback, affirmation. Silence threatens all of that. When a pause enters a conversation, most people feel exposed. The quiet space feels like judgment. The absence of words feels like disapproval. Suddenly, the brain races to fill the gap. Did I say something wrong? Do they disagree? Are they testing me? That discomfort builds pressure, and the natural response is to relieve that pressure by talking more, explaining, justifying, revealing. But here's the paradox. The more you talk to escape silence, the weaker you appear. Machiavelli saw this weakness clearly. He knew that silence was like a test, and most people would fail it. They would rush to speak, and in doing so, reveal their fears, desires, and insecurities. The silent one, however, remains calm, gathering all this information without giving away anything in return. Let's look at this more closely. Silence acts like a mirror. When you remain silent, people project their own emotions onto you. If they are insecure, they assume your silence is judgment. If they are guilty, they assume your silence is accusation. If they are eager to impress, they interpret your silence as disapproval, which drives them to overcompensate. This is why interrogators, negotiators, and even therapists use silence deliberately. They ask a question and then wait. The pause becomes unbearable for the other person, who eventually breaks it by revealing far more than they intended. Machiavelli didn't have modern psychology, but he understood the same mechanism. He knew silence compels others to reveal themselves, while the silent strategist remains an unreadable mystery. Now here's something fascinating. Silence is not just neutral. Silence actually creates the perception of depth and intelligence. Think about it. In a classroom, when a student remains quiet and thoughtful, others assume they're intelligent, even if they never speak. In a meeting, the person who says little is often perceived as more powerful, more senior, or more insightful. Why? Because humans instinctively associate silence with self-control, and self-control is linked to wisdom and strength. Machiavelli understood that appearances matter more than reality, and silence is one of the easiest ways to shape appearance. You don't need to be wise to appear wise. You only need to speak less. You don't need to be powerful to appear powerful. You only need to resist the urge to reveal everything. Authority is not only about what you say, it's about how people perceive you. Silence builds authority because it commands attention without demanding it. Consider a leader who speaks rarely. When they finally do speak, every word is weighted with importance. People lean in. They listen carefully. They assume significance because the leader does not waste words. Now contrast that with a leader who talks endlessly. Soon, their words lose weight. They become background noise. They may still hold a title, but their authority erodes because they lack restraint. This is why Machiavelli advised rulers to be careful with words. Silence builds scarcity, and scarcity creates value. The fewer words you use, the more valuable each word becomes. There is another hidden power in silence: mystery. Humans are naturally drawn to what they cannot fully understand. Mystery creates curiosity, and curiosity draws attention. The silent figure becomes the puzzle others cannot solve. And in trying to solve it, they grant that figure more power. Think of legendary figures in history and culture who said little but commanded enormous influence. Their silence became part of their identity. Their mystery became their strength. Machiavelli saw that mystery keeps others guessing, and when others are guessing, you are in control. Because uncertainty is power. If they cannot predict you, they cannot outmaneuver you. Let's compare two figures in any room. The first is the talker, the one who fills every gap with words. They share stories, opinions, jokes, and explanations. At first, they may entertain, but eventually, their constant noise reveals too much. People begin to see their weaknesses, their inconsistencies, even their desperation for approval. The second is the silent figure. They watch, they listen, they say little. Immediately, they seem more mysterious, more disciplined, more powerful. Others wonder, what are they thinking? Why aren't they speaking? Do they know something I don't? Over time, people respect the silent figure more than the talker because silence projects strength while chatter erodes it. So here is the challenge. Can you hold silence when others rush to fill it? Can you resist the urge to explain yourself, to justify, to overshare? Can you become the mirror that reveals others rather than the open book that reveals yourself? Machiavelli knew that silence unsettles, fascinates, and commands. Modern psychology proves it. Those who master silence not only protect themselves, but elevate themselves in the eyes of others. In the next part, we will examine silence as a tool of influence in leadership and negotiation, how it has been used by rulers, generals, and modern power players to dominate situations without lifting a finger. Stay with me, because the most practical lessons of Machiavelli's silence are still to come. So far, we've uncovered silence as a weapon of power, as a strategy, and as a psychological force. But now, we step into the battlefield of application. How does silence work in leadership? How does it shape negotiations? How does it influence others without force? In this part, we'll explore silence as a tool wielded by rulers, generals, and negotiators across history, and we'll connect it to the world we live in today. Because make no mistake, silence isn't just philosophy. It's practical power you can use in your career, your relationships, and even in the smallest interactions of everyday life. Let's begin with leadership. Machiavelli knew that leaders who spoke too often risked contradiction and weakness. Words are fragile. They can be twisted, remembered, and used against you. A leader who constantly explains themselves diminishes their aura. But silence creates presence. Think of a leader who rarely speaks in meetings. Everyone else argues, debates, and interrupts. But when the leader finally leans forward and utters a few words, the entire room falls silent. Why? Because silence made those words rare, and rarity creates value. This is the paradox of leadership. Speak less, and your words carry more. Machiavelli advised rulers to guard their words carefully, and the greatest leaders in history, whether emperors, presidents, or CEOs, understood this instinctively. They used silence, not as absence, but as emphasis. Nowhere is silence more effective than at the negotiation table. Picture this. Two parties sit down. The first side lays out their terms quickly, filling the air with justifications. They want to appear confident, but instead, they give away their priorities. The second side, they listen, they nod, they remain quiet, and then silence. What happens next? The first side panics. The silence feels like rejection. They start to talk again, lowering their price, adding concessions, revealing weakness. This is why experienced negotiators are trained to embrace silence. It is the cheapest and most effective tool in their arsenal. Silence forces the other side to speak first, to reveal their hand, to rush into compromises. Machiavelli would smile at this, because he understood long before modern psychology confirmed it. Silence in negotiation is not empty. It is active pressure. Now let's move to the battlefield. Machiavelli studied war deeply. He knew that victory often came not from strength alone, but from concealment. A general who revealed his plans too soon gave the enemy time to prepare. A general who kept silent, who disguised intentions, who masked movements created the advantage of surprise. Silence, in this sense, is not just the absence of words. It is the withholding of information. It is secrecy as strategy. Sun Tzu, in The Art of War, echoed this truth. All warfare is based on deception. Machiavelli agreed. And silence is deception's ally, because what is not revealed cannot be countered. Think of silence in modern leadership as the same principle. The executive who reveals strategy too soon gives competitors an edge. The politician who announces every move invites opposition. But the one who remains silent until the right moment, until the plan is fully ready, strikes with maximum impact. Let's bring this closer to everyday life. Silence is not only for rulers and generals, it is for anyone who seeks influence. In conversations, the silent one controls the rhythm. While others chatter, the silent person observes, choosing when to step in with precision. This creates an aura of control. In relationships, silence can communicate strength where words might fail. Instead of arguing endlessly, silence can say, "I am not shaken. I do not need to explain. I will not give you the reaction you seek." Even in friendships and workplaces, the person who speaks less but listens more is often respected more. People begin to think, when they speak, I should listen. This is the essence of influence. Not forcing others to listen, but making them want to. Look at the world today, and you'll see silence still at work. A billionaire investor like Warren Buffett gives only a few key public statements a year. When he speaks, markets move. Not because his words are magical, but because his silence made them scarce. A master interviewer like Larry King or Oprah uses silence after a question. That pause compels guests to fill it, often revealing truths they never intended to share. Even in business negotiations, some of the most successful deal makers are those who can remain silent the longest. They don't rush, they don't panic. They let the other side speak into the silence, often giving away more than they bargained for. Silence wins, because most people cannot handle it. Machiavelli's advice, stripped to its essence, is this: do not waste words. Speak only when it serves your strategy. Silence is not meant to be permanent. It is not about never speaking. It is about controlling when and how you speak. Use silence to protect information. Use silence to build mystery. Use silence to create authority. But when you do break silence, make sure your words strike like arrows, precise, unavoidable, unforgettable. This is how rulers influenced nations, how generals controlled wars, how negotiators closed impossible deals, and it is how you can influence the world around you today. So ask yourself, are you the talker, rushing to fill every gap? Or are you the strategist, waiting patiently, letting silence work for you? The truth is, silence is not absence. Silence is presence. It is control. It is influence. In the next part, we will go deeper into the hidden functions of silence. how it protects you, how it manipulates others, how it builds anticipation, and how it creates dominance without force. Stay tuned, because in Part 5, we reveal silence, not just as a shield, but as a weapon. Up until now, we've looked at silence as a strategy, as psychology, and as leadership. But in this part, we go deeper. We see silence for what it truly is when mastered a weapon. Machiavelli never spoke of silence as something passive. He understood it as an active tool, sharp, deliberate, capable of cutting deeper than words. Silence can defend you, but more importantly, it can attack without appearing aggressive. In this section, we will uncover 3 critical powers of silence: its ability to control others, to build anticipation, and to establish dominance without force. Imagine a conversation as a battlefield. Words are arrows, arguments are swords. Most people enter this battlefield swinging wildly, talking endlessly, thinking that speech equals strength. But silence? Silence is not a sword, it is a leash. When you remain silent, others begin to adjust themselves around you. They wonder what you're thinking. They try to guess your opinion. They fill the silence with their own words. Without realizing it, they begin to orbit you, controlled by your absence of sound. This is the hidden control of silence. It bends others toward you. It forces them to reveal themselves, while you reveal nothing. You lead, not by commanding, but by withholding. Machiavelli understood that true power often lies in what is not said. Because silence keeps you unpredictable, and unpredictability makes others cautious. And when they are cautious, you are in control. Now let's talk about anticipation. When a ruler, leader, or even a friend falls silent, something interesting happens. People begin to expect something big. The pause itself builds tension. It's like the moment before a storm breaks, the seconds before a verdict is announced, the silence before music drops into a thunderous beat. In communication, this pause is powerful. It makes people lean in, focus, and wait. And the longer you can hold that silence, the greater the impact when you finally speak. Speakers, actors, and even stand-up comedians know this well. Timing is everything. A perfectly placed pause creates more impact than a flood of words. Silence makes the audience crave the next sound. Machiavelli would say, "Let others waste words. You create value by withholding them." This is why silence is anticipation itself. It makes your next move inevitable, dramatic, unforgettable. Dominance doesn't always come from speaking louder. Sometimes it comes from refusing to speak at all. Think of an argument. One person shouts, explains, insists. The other stays calm, silent, unshaken. Who looks stronger? Not the one yelling, but the one who refuses to be provoked. Silence is dominance because it shows mastery over your own emotions. It proves you cannot be baited, cannot be manipulated, cannot be dragged into weakness. This is why silence terrifies the insecure. They cannot stand it. They mistake silence for judgment, for superiority, for hidden knowledge. And in their panic, they often expose their weakness even more. Machiavelli knew this. He advised rulers to appear calm even when chaos surrounded them, because silence is not only absence of sound, it is the declaration of control. It says, "I am untouchable." History gives us many examples. Julius Caesar was famous for listening more than he spoke. His silence made allies underestimate him and enemies fear him because they never knew what he truly planned. In negotiations, the great industrialist John D. Rockefeller often stayed silent, while others spoke themselves into worse deals. His refusal to speak gave him the upper hand always. Even in politics today, silence can be a weapon. Think of moments when a politician is asked a difficult question. Some rush to answer, fumbling. But the one who pauses, who lets the silence grow before delivering a sharp, calculated response, gains far more authority. Silence weaponized is timeless. It worked in the courts of Renaissance Italy, and it works in the boardrooms of today. But silence is not just about rulers and leaders. It is about personal life too. In relationships, silence can be more powerful than anger. Instead of shouting, silence communicates, "I am not moved." Instead of explaining endlessly, silence says, "You already know." Of course, silence must be used carefully. Too much can create distance, but used deliberately, it commands respect and establishes boundaries more clearly than any argument. Machiavelli would argue that even in love and friendship, power dynamics exist. Silence protects you from overexposure, from giving away too much of yourself, from being manipulated by emotion. It is not cruelty, it is control. One of the biggest misconceptions about silence is that it is weakness, that not speaking means you have nothing to say, but the opposite is true. Silence is restraint. It is discipline. It is the ability to hold your ground when others rush forward. And restraint is the foundation of power. Machiavelli's world was brutal politics, war, betrayal. Yet even there, silence was a weapon sharper than steel, because silence could protect you when words would condemn you. Silence could elevate you when chatter would expose you. Silence could dominate when shouting would only cheapen you. So here is the question: will you wield silence as a weapon? Remember this: silence controls by making others reveal themselves. Silence builds anticipation, making your next word unforgettable. And silence establishes dominance by showing that nothing can shake you. Machiavelli's silence was never passive. It was deliberate, calculated, weaponized. And in your life, whether in leadership, negotiation, or relationships, it can be the same. In the next and final part, we will uncover the ultimate mastery of silence, how to balance when to stay quiet and when to finally break silence with devastating effect. Because silence alone is not enough. The true power lies in knowing when to speak. We have journeyed through the hidden world of silence, its psychological grip, its use in leadership, its role in negotiation, its power as a weapon. But now we arrive at the final and most important lesson: mastery. Because silence, on its own, is not enough. If you remain silent forever, you become invisible. If you speak without control, you become ordinary. The true mastery lies in balance, in knowing when to stay silent and when to break that silence with devastating, unforgettable effect. This is the final art of Machiavelli's silence. We live in an age of endless chatter, social media, news cycles, constant updates. The world drowns in words. Everyone is speaking, everyone is shouting. And that is why silence has never been more powerful. In this noisy world, the one who speaks less gains more attention. The one who pauses gains more weight. And the one who waits before speaking commands more respect. But silence cannot last forever. At some point, words must be spoken. And when they are, they must strike like lightning, rare, sudden, unforgettable. Machiavelli would remind us, words are weapons, but they are fragile if wasted. Speak rarely, and your words cut deeper. So when should you break silence? The answer is simple: only when speaking serves your strategy. In leadership, speak when your words will guide, inspire, or command, not when they will simply add to the noise. In negotiation, break silence only when it secures advantage, when the timing of your words can close the deal, not weaken your hand. In personal life, speak when your silence has already built weight, when the other person is ready to truly hear what you say. The mastery of silence is not about never speaking. It is about speaking at the exact moment when silence has made your words priceless. When you finally speak after silence, something remarkable happens. Your words explode with force. They carry weight far beyond their length. This is what I call the shockwave effect. Think of a courtroom where a lawyer listens silently for hours and then, in one sharp sentence, dismantles the opponent's case. The silence made that sentence unforgettable. Think of a leader who stays quiet through a long debate, and then, with a single clear statement, brings the room to unity. Think of your own life moments where you stayed silent in conflict, only to finally speak with precision. That single statement carried more power than hours of argument. This is the reward of silence. It makes your words not just heard but felt. Here is the truth Machiavelli would want you to remember. Silence is not about hiding forever. It is not about fear. It is not about retreat. Silence is a partner. It works with words to create power. Without silence, words lose weight. Without words, silence loses purpose. Together, they create balance. Machiavelli would tell a prince, "Stay silent to conceal your mind. Speak only when your words will secure your power." And the same applies to you. Stay silent when nothing must be revealed. Speak only when speaking changes everything. Let's bring this into your life. In your career, don't rush to fill the air in meetings. Let silence amplify your presence. Then, when you do speak, let it be sharp, clear, undeniable. In negotiation, hold silence until the other side reveals themselves. Then, speak with confidence when your words can seal the victory. In relationships, use silence to protect yourself from arguments that drain you, and use words only when they can heal, strengthen, or set boundaries. In self-mastery, train yourself to resist the urge to explain, justify, or overshare. Let silence be your shield and words your chosen arrows. This is how silence transforms from a trick into a lifelong strategy. The final gift of silence is mystery. People cannot respect what they fully understand. Mystery creates curiosity, and curiosity creates respect. Silence ensures that you are never fully known, never fully predictable, never fully controlled. And when you finally do speak, you transform mystery into revelation. This is why the most powerful figures in history spoke rarely but with impact, because silence made their words timeless. Respect, authority, and influence flow naturally to those who master this art. So here is the final truth. Silence is not absence. It is presence. It is control. It is anticipation. It is dominance. But most importantly, it is balance. Machiavelli taught rulers to guard their words, to use silence as armor and as weapon. But he also taught that silence means nothing without the wisdom of when to finally speak. Master both, and you hold the key to influence. Master both, and you rise above the noise of the world. Master both, and your words, when spoken, will move people, shift minds, and change destinies. Because, in the end, silence is power, but the breaking of silence, that is history.